We have Sanyog today in our podcast. And hi, Sanyog, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, and I'm glad to be here.
My pleasure. And LinkedIn describes you as translating learning into performance using facilitation and coaching and mentoring. So tell us a little more about yourself and background.
Okay. Um, so let me take you back a few decades. I'm a second generation educator. My father also used to teach. Now, there is a little bit of a difference. He taught in the university system. And in my corporate experience, I did work in many different functions. But what I found is when I reflect back on that period is that every time, whatever task I had, I just felt that people development was my best foot forward. So I was very keen. So about 20 years, I worked on the corporate side. And then I think approximately 14 years ago, when I had a chance to decide whether I want to continue in the corporate or go on my own, I decided to go full time into learning and development. So I partner with uh, learning and development teams in their talent management initiatives as well as in organizational development type of projects.
Okay. And as part of ICF Bangalore chapter, you're heading the Unicorn, and we would like to hear a bit about that, a bit more in detail.
Yes. So this it was a sheer coincidence. It was back in August 2020. I was I signed up as an audience to listen to a panel discussion, and this panel discussion was hosted by the ICF Delhi NCR chapter. And there were several key educators, well-known educators, and one particular person who was also in the panel was a professor from the Rice University, and she was in charge of the Rice University coaching program. And at Rice University, they were offering coaching for their graduate students for, I think, more than 4 years, and they had also done a lot of research. So, and she shared about the program, she shared about the testimonials, she shared about the outcome. And as soon as I heard that, something clicked in me actually. And I thought this is something which we must bring to the students in India. Um, and uh, and that's it. I was able to get the recording of that particular session. I don't know, I must have listened to the recording at least half a dozen times. And I spoke to some of the coaches. And my first conversation with them was that, look, if I had been coached or if I had the opportunity to be coached, maybe I would have taken, some decisions would have been different. And I may have been, here where I am today, but probably with less bruises and scars. And, I thought I was the only one, but everybody I spoke to, they said the same thing. So I just floated the idea on the ICF Bengaluru chapter WhatsApp group. If you're interested in coaching students in the higher education sector, please write back. And there were 20-25 people, who said that they are very interested. And then, rest is history. We had to work very, very hard to get our first client, to get a vision, to get a mission statement, and everything around it. But I'm glad that we put in the time because today, every chapter of ICF, they have a University Connect program. So there are 6 chapters of ICF in India, and every one of them has a University Connect program. So I'm very glad that we did the hard work and the hard yards to get to where we are today.
Wow, wonderful. And what satisfaction of impacting people with the right potential and who are going to create our future, right? So you said you have coached around, yeah, around 200 students have been coached. So can you tell us what is the feedback that you've got from graduates who have been coached, young adults?
So when we talk about the feedback, and I think we want to see it from different lens. So one of the things that we do at the end of the program, by the way, we request the colleges not to nominate students. We have an orientation program and we ask students to volunteer if they want to be coached. So at the end of the program, we have a survey. We have a survey for the students. We have the survey for the coaches. And this survey is a real quick one, less than 45 seconds, completely confidential. They don't have to disclose their name. They don't have to disclose their phone number, and we don't even capture the email IDs. And we ask them, 5 questions. And two of those questions, the first one is that, how satisfied you are with the entire coaching program. And the last question is, would you recommend this coaching program to somebody else? And for both those questions, we get very high affirmative. So we know that we are what we call, on the right path. And also, students at the end of the session, typically the coaches would ask them, what is that they have achieved in the coaching program, and the level and what they tell us, the self-rating and the stories that they tell us, they are very, very impressive. And they're telling us that we are on the right path. There is a program like this. It takes a long time. I think 3 4 years is not enough. It really takes a long time, but I believe that we're on the right path. I believe that we have stabilized the program very, very well, and from here into the future, we just have to improve.
Right. And since you've worked with so many young adults, I would like to know, what do you find as strength for these Gen Zs?
There are many strands, and I have been very fortunate that in my home, my daughter, she's not a Gen Z, slightly a few years older, but it helps me relate to the generation. So one of the biggest strength that this generation they have is that they're very, very resourceful. And so that is something which is very good. The other I should say, the strength that they have is that they may not really truly understand what coaching is, but the change happens very fast. Once when they understand, then the change happens much faster. And to this, I go a couple of steps further. You work with an executive, a mid to senior level executive in the corporate world, 40 years, 50 years. This individual is going to require so many incentives to change. Maybe a next position, maybe more money. The boss should say this or that. All kinds of things they are there. But when we look at a young person is willing to change really, really quickly. So they are very resourceful. And if you are able to help them focus on a goal which they are connected to, you will find that the change happens very fast. And there's one more thing that is very impressive. And many of the students have told me this. They said, whatever I learned, I taught to 15 other people. So it has such a multiplier effect that is very refreshing. And of course, there are many other reasons, but these I would say they are the top 3 reasons.
Right. And is there a general theme around the aspirations that they have?
So there are many topics. And what I would say, and of course, one of the big topic that they have is about career planning. That occupies almost 50% of their interest levels. But other than that, they also have the same self-doubts which any other generation has. And to give you an example of a few things, whether it is managing time, staying focused, self-doubt, low self-esteem, fear of failure, all of these things, everybody, we all face those. And what makes this thing so, I should say, so satisfying, and I would just say one of the reasons only, is that just imagine if in very early in your career, you knew that this is normal, by the way, having self-doubt, uh, or maybe fear of failure, or sometimes low self-esteem. These are something which are very, very normal to the human beings at whatever age we are. And if you know very early in your career how to handle those situations, just imagine the quality of life you can have. You can really have a much better human experience if you know how to handle these things versus if you didn't know how to handle these things.
Yeah, agree. I think the sooner you start off with the right frame of mind, the better it is for you, and more chances of you being achieving whatever you want to achieve, right?
You said it very well.
Yeah. And what can you share a few examples of the changes that you've seen after having coached a couple of students, that stories that you're close to your heart?
Yeah, so there are actually many stories, and the one that really stands out for me was a student that I was coaching. And this particular student, the first presenting problem was that I'm not sure whether I should take marketing or HR or finance as my field. And this particular student was completing her MBA, and she was in the first year. And she was actually a pretty good student. And I think that no matter what field that she would have taken, she would have excelled. Now, whether that field would have been her passion or not, that is a different story. But she would have excelled because she was a hardworking student, had always done well. And so when she came to me, and of course, I wanted her to discover for herself. So I, suggested to her that, who can she speak to really to understand? And she shared a few names, and she went and spoke to her professors. And then I actually asked her if she would be willing to do an experiment. And she said, yeah, she didn't mind that. So I actually directed her to speak to a few people who have been in this particular line, like for marketing and et cetera, et cetera. And just understand that how 30 years later or 25 years later, do they regret the decision that they made, and what they think would be if they had to start all over again, what would be the preparation and how they would look at the whole thing. And she had a chance to speak to 3 or 4 people, and after that she came back. Now, once when she came back, nobody gave her any answers. They just gave her what does the grass look like, on the other side. Something happened to this individual, and then she started contacting on her own people, younger people who were in that field. And she was very creative, and she was able to actually connect with these people and also get a 15-20 minute meeting on LinkedIn with these individuals. And it was almost like a play that she decided that every day I am going to connect with one person. And so she did, and she got clarity as to what area she should get. And before the second year came around, she had made her selection. And lo and behold, before even she graduated, and she came from a small school. Uh, and before even she graduated, she got a job with one of the most well-known companies, well-known brands. And that particular company had not even come at the campus. So we are in the process of, documenting some of those things. And then I asked her, and I had also spoken with her, that tell me what really changed for her. And actually, the thing that changed for her, there were several things that changed for her. And one of the things that she told me was that she carried a belief that why should strangers help? And when she spoke to so many different people, that belief really changed, that strangers can help if you ask them. And today, and now the story goes back, I think, at least 2.5 years. She's working in Mumbai, and she's doing very well. And she told me, whatever I learned from our conversations, I have taught at least to 15 other people. As a matter of fact, anytime if I find a young person in a similar kind of situation stuck, I always ask her, hey, will you be willing to talk to this individual? And she's always said yes, anytime. So I think that really is a great story, and there's so many other stories like that, and it just transforms people for life. It helps them, and I personally, the longer I've spent in this line of coaching and facilitating, I find that if we can help people think more broadly, I think we have achieved the purpose. We have achieved the purpose with which we started, and that's what happens.
It was a very heart touching story, and I just was thinking that coaching is so powerful in the way that it brings out those beliefs which might be limiting, which we won't even be aware, right? I've seen it play its role in such a huge way, but we are totally unaware of that belief that is acting underground, right? And what are the common struggles that you've seen with these young adults or challenges that
Well,
you?
yeah, if you uh, think about it psychologically, they are just moving from one life stage to another life stage. Up until now, whenever they were at a crossroad, people told them that what to do. And I'm just trivializing this a little bit. You are at a signal. When it says red, you're supposed to start. When it says amber, you're supposed to slow down. When it says green, you're supposed to start. When you are in the college, the bell rings, and guess what? You're supposed to be in the classroom. So everything somebody says and they follow. Now they are at such an inflection point in their life when they are asked to make some of the biggest decisions of their lifetime. Okay. And and to be confused is quite normal. It's quite natural. And this is the first time. And then from parents, I read this somewhere that when you're too close to a situation, you lose the curiosity. So, many students are, I should say, fortunate that the parents can balance between being objective and being very close, or they have somebody that they can look up to. Otherwise, they end up getting this so-called journal advice from the social media, which may or may not be applicable to their particular situation. So that is one challenge. So psychologically, they're moving from one stage to another. They are going to be making some of the biggest decisions of their life. And at that time, when they're making such, anytime, if even as adults, we are confronted with such big decisions, we just tend to get a tunnel vision and we start seeing things in a very binary manner, this or that. But it is not this and that, it is this and that, and there are so many different options. But when we are, confronted, when we are under pressure, we see things in a very narrow fashion. So these, I would say, are some of the challenges, along with what I said, that everybody else, at one time or the other, you will have self-doubt, fear of failure. We all do. And they also face this situation of managing time. There's an overload of information. There are only 24 hours. So those are kind of issues.
Right. Yeah. So that was very insightful. I also wanted to ask you if you have to, if one has to convince or portray the importance of coaching to young adults, how would you tell them? Because coaching is pretty new concept, especially in India for young adults. So, having that experience, how would you portray the importance of coaching?
Now, there are a few things which are like prerequisite when it comes to coaching. One of them is that, people have to have a goal. You cannot create a goal for somebody else. And there has to be intensity, which in a way manifests in terms of commitment, that, how committed they are to the goal. And the third thing is they need to have time, because it is not during the sessions that you get transformed. It is the work that you do in between the sessions when you get transformed. So when we are introducing coaching, at in a large group, these are the three things that we say, that, you need to have a goal. You need to have a commitment. There has to be a desire to reach that goal. And as a matter of fact, you should feel very dissatisfied if you don't reach that goal. And you should be willing to give time, in between the sessions, because the real work is going to be done by the student. It is not by the student or the young adult. It is not going to be done by the coach. Yeah, coach also has to do a lot of hard work, but these three things are very important. So you need to have a goal. They have to be looking at something into future.
Mm, yeah, beautiful. So, if someone has to, any college wants to approach for unicorn enrollment, can you give some contact details or what's the process?
Okay. So we have, I try not to say that we have perfected things, because there is nothing like perfection. But as I told you earlier, I think we have stabilized the process. So the way we work is that first and foremost, we like to make a presentation to the head of the department or to the dean, and see that how they, resonate to the idea. And I should say, the um, the way we like to explain to them, if you look at the charter of any higher educational institute, in their mission statement, in their vision statement, there will be something called holistic education. Okay. But how much time really that they are able to, provide towards the holistic education? The syllabus and the curriculum is getting bigger and bigger. And by the way, one of the things is when we are talking to the institutes, we are very appreciative of what they're doing, because we are, first and foremost, we're not trying to substitute what the teachers they do. So they already have a lot on their plate. What we say is that we can actually help you in delivering your mission, which is holistic education. So once when we get a buy-in from the dean and the HOD, then we request them to allow us to do an orientation, a 20-minute orientation, along with another 20-25 minutes of Q&A with the faculty. And then we, conduct an orientation with them, and post that orientation. And part of the orientation is we also explain to them what the process is. So we would speak to the big group, and we can speak to them virtually, or we can speak to them on a face to face. And we try and have an understanding with the institute that please do not nominate, let people volunteer. So after our large group presentation, we initiate a survey, and people come back on the survey. They tell us, okay, this is the goal I have, and some of those things, and understand. And from that survey, we get students who are interested. The college can look at that list, and verify, because there's one particular college, they do a pretty good job. They want to make sure that there is gender, geographic, social status, economic status parity is there among the students that are coming forward for coaching. So they give us a name. We are not looking at huge numbers or anything like that. It is really quality. The goal is that, because we know, as I told you upfront, one student gets transformed, at least 15, 20, they will transform 15, 20 other people around them. So that's how we do it. We make sure that everything, it's volunteer. Nobody's chasing anybody. And by the way, everything we do is virtual. We can do for a local college, we can do face-to-face presentation, but all the coaching sessions are held virtually. So no one has to travel, because in a city like Bangalore, trying to travel can become very, very laborious. So that's what our process is. The way we administer it in 100 days, that's what we want. Because if we can't help somebody in 100 days, we can't help them in 150 days or 1,000 days also. So 100 days is our threshold.
Okay, beautiful. And last one, I wanted to understand some of the common goals that you've come across through coaching these people, just to get a theme or idea about it.
So I mentioned, as I had mentioned earlier, that career planning is one of them. And then fear of failure, self-doubt, managing the time, staying focused, relationships. These are some of the issues that they come up with. Self-doubt. And as I say, I am just reminding myself of a particular slide that we have. So uh, on one side is academic excellence. Now, academic excellence and the college administration, professors, parents, they do a great job. And academic excellence is something which you can learn from others, and it makes you job ready. Okay. Then on the other side is really what I call as personal excellence, personal mastery. And personal mastery is something which you have to go within to learn about yourself. So what are your strengths? What are your values? Those are some of the basic things. that makes you life ready. So one thing makes you job ready, the other thing makes you life ready. And we say we bridge these two things through coaching. That is what we do. So you are winning from within. And in today's environment, and all our audience who are going to listen to this recording, they've heard about this term called VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So in a world that you are living, you have to be prepared how to handle the uncertainty and the volatility which is going to be around you. And if you know yourself, what is really important to you, by the way, finding your purpose is also something which is very critical. Once when you know these things, what is important to you, it is going to help you a long way in your decision making, because the quality of our life depends on the quality of our decision making.
Yeah.
So they learn how to make better decisions, and that is going to impact the quality of their personal life as well as their professional life.
Beautiful. I think that's why young adults is the most crucial stage, and they can get so much out of coaching at that stage. And that's what I'm also working towards. And it was really inspiring to listen to you and to stories of young adults having coaching and the results that they've seen. And on a closing note, do you have anything to share? Any contact details? If any contact college wants to contact you.
Okay, so yes, my phone number is 9900267049. My email ID is Sanyog, which is SANYOG _JAIN @ yahoo.com. So if any college is interested, then I can really connect them to our local board, ICF Bengaluru chapter local board. And that's how people can we can get started on that. And the final note really is that all of us, there is a vision to make India as the as part of the first world. And I think leadership, inculcating good leadership is one of the most important contributing factor. And all of us, what we are really doing is that we are contributing by supporting the emerging leadership of the country. And my personal goal really is that, and I say 10 by 10, in the next 10 years, I want to impact life of 100 young people. And each year, I also want to encourage 10 other people, 10 other coaches to do the same thing. And that was one of the reasons why I agreed to come on this podcast. There are not too many. I would say that I'm social media shy. I'm not averse to it, but I am not much on social media. But because I think if through this podcast, if more coaches can get interested, then we can make a huge difference. And by the way, coaching young people, when we were creating the vision, mission, and how it is going to impact different stakeholders, what we realized that it is not just the students that we are supporting. We're supporting coaching as a profession. We're supporting the industry. We're supporting the coaches, and we are also supporting and the country. So there are a lot of things. There is a lot at stake, and I think we just have to put all our, I should say, not just our hands are invited to the deck, but also the hearts as well as our minds to the deck. That's what we really need if we want to make this country as a first-rate country.
Beautiful. And uh, my heart goes out to all the contributions that you're making, and it's very admirable that group of coaches have united in this cause. And I would like to end the session saying thank you for taking time out, and it's been wonderful chatting with you.
Likewise, and thank you for inviting me on your podcast. And I wish you the very best in your endeavor to coach young people. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Anu. Bye.